Welcome to Serious Talk, the Military Minute. I'm your host, Greg Banks. We're all about helping veterans, active service members, and military spouses find their place in the Salesforce ecosystem through real success stories and practical resources. Grab your coffee and let's talk about how your military experience can be your secret weapon in the tech world. All right. Well, welcome to the show, Munta Montgomery. We're glad to have you on Serious Talk, a Military Minute. Munta comes to us as a senior consultant on Team Romeo. He's in our managed services division. You've been in the ecosystem for about 3 years. He's got 8 certifications, served roughly 4 years in the Air Force. He's become almost famous around here for getting unsolicited shout outs from clients, not to mention his coworkers, for a job well done. And I got a quote from Brandon, your manager, Munta. We'll start with this.
Okay.
Munta's favorite statement when asked, "How's your work coming along?" is, "Business as usual, sir. But the work he provides is far from usual. He quietly skills himself and his clients up. He receives unsolicited feedback constantly. He's one of the highest rated here at Cirrius Solutions. His quality of delivery and his technical prowess grows daily. Munta embodies cool, calm, and collective to the core." A lot of adjectives there. Daily, he shines the core values at Cirrius Solutions. We're proud to have him on the managed services squad and point to others to emulate his work. I can't come up with anything better than that to introduce you, man. I'm really, really grateful to have you here. I know we've played some ping pong trying to get this thing scheduled, but man, really thank you for giving us some time today, Munta.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. Well, you know the background with kind of what we're trying to do here, man. We love our veterans. We love our mil spouses. It's a very big part of who we are here at Cirrius. But I understand that there's constantly people going in and constantly people coming out of the military, navigating those waters from active service or being married to an active service member back to civilian life is a lot of things. Simple is not the word I ever hear anybody use with it. So we want to tell the story of people that we have the benefit of knowing and working alongside here. I want to hear about your journey, how you got out, why you got out, when you got out, what that looked like. But before we get into any of that, let's talk about why you went in, when you went in, that kind of stuff. So tell me a little bit about Munta prior to the Air Force. Maybe if that was chosen in high school, whatnot. When did that first come on your radar? Do you remember why it came on, that kind of a thing? Give us a little background.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana. My whole family is from Louisiana. Shreveport, for people who aren't familiar, is North Louisiana. So I have a couple generations deep of veterans in my family. So I won't say that it was a choice that I knew I was going to make from the beginning. It kind of evolved into that. Growing up, I was into sports. I thought I would go to college off of sports and different things, but it didn't pan out that way. And so once I come to that realization, I had to figure out what's next. So after speaking with family members, I didn't want to go to college without sports. So it was like, what do I do? And I wanted to start making money. So my graduating class was 2006. So when I was in the 8th grade, that's when the attack happened on the towers in New York. So, for a lot of the young people, it stirs your patriotism, whether you know it or not, right? So before I knew it, I found myself saying, you know what? I'm going to go into the military. So I had people from all branches. My father was a Vietnam veteran. Mom was in the Navy. We got Marines, everything except the Coast Guard in my family. So they were like, hey, you're very smart. I think you should try the Air Force. So being that Louisiana's a small state, let alone being from a small town, it was my best opportunity to get my career going in something that could be hands-on. So it kind of just ended up really being a business decision after talking with my family. So that's how the foundation was laid for me to join the Air Force.
Good deal. My father was a Vietnam vet as well, man. So I know you probably didn't hear much of anything about his service. Most of the Vietnam vets didn't talk a whole lot about it. But to hear that around your family, I don't think there's any way to be surrounded by military people and not be overly aware.
Right.
That you've got veterans in your blood. So, and to hear you affected by 9/11, I was actually on an airplane the morning that happened. Was going to Ohio, not New York.
That's crazy.
I remember I had left my house at 3:00 that morning, was mid-flight. I'd flown into Cincinnati and was connecting from there to Cleveland when the actual attack happened, and was dead asleep because I had been there since 3:00 and was awakened by the pilot saying we'd been ordered out of the air, just prepare for a quick landing. And that set on probably one of the longest days of my life. So we'll dig into that a little bit more as we go, man. But Yeah, I don't think if you were a conscious person, meaning you were of age to understand news, really, really hard to think about that day and not have emotions one way or the other. It affected
Definitely.
probably nearly every family in every city, economies, all those things, right? So cool. So as one of the things I hear people talk about is you're looking to enlist is choosing your MOS. So for people that don't, I guess for veterans, they'll obviously know this, but for those who don't know, when you go in the military, and I got to say, up until probably a couple years ago, this was my take. If you sign up to go in the Army or the Marines, you're going to boot camp and you're learning to fight. I had no
Right.
idea that you're
Yeah.
actually choosing kind of an occupation, so to speak,
Correct.
that from jump, when you sign up for the military, they're going, all right, what are you thinking about after? And it seems like that sometimes is just like a box to check. Like they are obligated to offer you something, so they offer you something, but it's not like a smorgasbord of career choices to choose from. There's a finite number of things that they can offer, but basically what that means is you have your military service, the combat, whatever that might be, but
Hmm.
there's some kind of job training that you're choosing. Do you recall the list that you chose from? What did you choose? Why did you choose it? And how did that affect where you are today? Like what, again, if you went right after high school at 18, all you know is what you don't know. You think you know
Right.
everything, but you don't know much.
Correct.
So you might as well picked up a magic 8 ball and picked the choice. But tell
Yeah.
me a little bit about that decision for you.
Yeah, that's great, great, great question. So, for one, I had experienced people in my family who gave me the ropes on what I should do, right?
Oh,
So,
that's right.
that's very important for anybody out there who's hearing this. If you have people that you know and trust that have done this before, it is very wise to speak to them before you go to what they call MEPS. This is where you go and pick the job and do all these things, right? So I had wise counsel. So they told me, hey, you're good with your hands. You're pretty smart. You need to pick something that when you are done, that you can translate into a civilian career. So I knew that before I ever stepped foot in the office. So everything I picked was related to that. So I picked aircraft mechanics. There were several different jobs within that tier. And then I picked civil engineering, which is like kind of construction,
Mm-hmm.
things of that sort. So those were the two areas. I picked multiple jobs in those areas because I knew I would be fine with however that played out. So I ended up getting my first choice, which was aircraft mechanics. It's called aerospace propulsion was the name of the title, but it's a fancy name for an aircraft engine mechanic.
Okay.
And so you said, you asked the question, how did that shape where I am now and just my life period? Well, as you know, as a consultant in Salesforce, troubleshooting is what we do on an everyday basis. You can't get a better education in troubleshooting than working on the flight line when you have people much older than you who are demanding that their plane needs to fly ASAP. And if it's not going to be able to do it, you have to give them a reason. So imagine being 18, 19 years old and you have this pressure to figure these things out and you have to do it quickly and you better have an answer. So that trains your mind in a way that college could have never done for me.
Yeah.
So very impactful decision for sure.
I would say that probably help you in consulting too, right? This concept of a
Easily.
meter spinning. There's some urgency, the safety of doing it right.
Yep.
Yeah, my dad was an airline mechanic as well. He wound
So
up
you understand. Yeah.
working on engines for 25 years, but then he moved up to engineering, writing the manuals on working
Yep.
on engines in his latter part of career. But yeah, I've heard stories about that. And
It's no
cool,
joke.
good deal. Yeah, to me, choosing an MOS is always a cool story because I think it says something about personality. Some of the other interviews is like, I didn't really know. I just picked one. It sounded cool.
Yeah.
Others obviously had gotten counsel from people who'd been down that road. But good deal, good deal. Well, that was in there. If you want to speak to any specific highlights you recall, like I'm sure doing 4 years, you've got some stories. We probably could run a 4 or 5 hour episode here, getting into some things you learned. But if anything jumps out there, let me know. But I'd love to hear, like, when you went in, did you know going in, I'm just going to do my 4? Like, I'm not going to. A lot of people I hear say they plan to go do their 20s so they can retire from that and still be young enough to start another career. I worked with a guy in high school. I bagged groceries at the commissary at Fort Gillem in Georgia. And there's a guy there I was 17. What did I know? But he seemed older, but he was on his third career. He went in the military at 17, got out at 37, retired, went into the insurance business, did 20 years and retired. So he was at least 57, but he was 57 years old. He already had 2 retirements coming in and was working on his third career. Bagging groceries wasn't that, by the way. That was just side money.
Yeah.
But again, what did that, as you went in, did you know you're going to get out after 4? If not, what made you choose that? And as you started that, we'll get into this, but I researched a lot of different programs about how to help veterans in this this transition to civilian life is just a giant boondoggle for everybody. It seems like no matter how much you prepare, like the timing, where do you live? What do you want to do? What is the economy like at that time? Who's president? Right. I mean, there's a lot of things that can drive how successful that's going to be. So tell me a little bit about the day you decided I'm definitely getting out. Did that immediately, like how soon were you out from that period? How much time did you have to start laying out those bricks to be the road you're going to get on upon getting free from the military?
Yeah, so when I went in, I didn't have an expectation of how long I was going to be in. I was just going to let the experience play out, and whatever made sense, that's what I was going to do. So first off, I had no plan whether to stay 4 years or do a full 20 plus. So after I was in, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. So I would say getting close to around my 4th year, I had already been involved in different business ventures. And I felt like at that time, what I needed from the military, I had received a world-class education and discipline, hard work, traveling all over the world. So I just knew that I'm the type of person, if I can't give 100%, there's no need for me to be there when somebody else can be in my shoes. I gave my service to the country. I deployed multiple times. I did everything with honor and valor. So I felt like it was just best for me to move on to the next phase of my life. So very grateful for my experience. But once I got to that 4-year mark and I knew that because I didn't want to move all the time and not be in control of where I am, and because that can affect my business opportunities. So it just really came down to making a decision of, I knew that there was other things that I wanted to do that I wouldn't be able to still be successful doing while in the military. I would have been shortchanging my military service, and that wasn't fair to the military nor to myself. So I made that decision then to just, hey, let me go branch off. I'm 21 years old, still got plenty of time ahead of me to make wise choices. So that's kind of how it played out. So I just knew it was time.
Okay. So do you recall some of the resources you looked into? Like my understanding is on any given base, there's an office, and that office might have one person in it, but there's basically a person you can talk to that helps point you down the options you have to choose from there. But I also know there are hundreds, if not thousands, of online resources, things like that you can go to. Do you recall those that you evaluated, which ones you actually looked into, and what was the lever that helped you kind of pull that trigger?
Yeah, so everybody knows me, then they know I'm a straight shooter. So I have to be completely honest here. So typically when you are separating from the military, it's not always met with, how should I say this, with excitement from your peers and a lot of help for multiple reasons. It's not because it's malicious. It's because, for one, most people, they don't know another life outside of the military. So they can't tell you what they don't know. That's number one. And for two, even though it is the military is also a business, it's better to keep people. I just spent X amount of dollars training you up to be this individual that we needed. And now you're choosing to go another route. So it's not always, all the options are not laid out to you. You have to go find them, basically. And that was a difficult experience, to be honest. And this was also in 2010. So it wasn't how it is now, where you can Google things, right? You can get way more resources than you could then. It wasn't just readily available. So I really didn't have a lot of resources as far as career transition. But the beautiful part is, though, because I picked the job that I picked, I had several job offers lined up to pay me as an aircraft mechanic based on my military skills. So I didn't really need a transition plan because I had contractors galore. The war was still going on at this time. So I had people blowing down my door to get me to take contracts here. I already had a security clearance. So that was the blessing in my choice, was that I had options. I didn't need a transition program at that moment. So to be fair, the military helped me without giving me any other guidance because of the training I received. But I didn't go through a specific transition program like what they have now.
That's a really good point. I don't think anybody's really talked a whole lot about that, but as you start evaluating what those things are, and I mean, I remember making a career change. I was in the banking industry early on, did a lot of banking networking, network installation, that kind of stuff around Y2. Man, it's kind of scary, especially once you get married, start having kids. It's like, man, I don't know, making a change right now is kind of risky. And it's not just me that's going to affect. It's going to affect my family too. But to know that you're stepping out, and really no matter what you choose, again, this is not just skills, this is not just experience, but that security clearance, that kind of stuff. And I'm certainly that was a great thing to be able to lean on. So
Oh yeah.
kind of proof that your MOS selection was a good one.
Correct.
That is I'm trying to think back when I was in high school, it was just a different animal. But you sat down with a career counselor. In my days, the internet didn't exist.
Right.
So, there was no Indeed.com that you could go
Right.
look and see what was out there. You had to trust people. They were giving you good counsel. But to be trying to evaluate at that age, what do I think I want to do forever?
Right.
That's what it feels like when you're about to get free from that K-12 experiences. I'm about to choose forever, which feels freeing and entrapment all at the same time, I guess. But I guess that was a good affirmation. Like your first decision was choosing military with a good OMS. Your second decision was, all right, based on the first one, which worked out pretty well, I can, with confidence, take that next step. So that's really good to hear.
Yep.
Good to hear. What ultimately was that first job coming out of there? Did you wind up taking advantage of that, or did you go a different route?
Oh yeah. So I took a contract job right out the gate. So I was 21. This was 2010. I was making about $30 an hour. So I felt rich at this time, fresh out.
That's lottery
no
money for a 21-year-old.
That's what I'm saying. And I traveled. They sent me all over. It was actually great. So I was feeling like, hey, I made the right decision. You know what I mean? Because I walked instantly into this job. So, and I had others. I just liked this one the best because of the pay rate and because of the travel ability. So, yeah, so the plan worked out. I was able to land that job and I started working right away. And it was still working on military aircraft and things. So, something I was already familiar with. So, yeah, it was a smooth transition in that aspect.
Okay. Cool. I'm trying to do some quick math here while I'm listening to you. That was 2010. That was 15 years ago. You've been in the ecosystem for 3 years. So you went out and did some other stuff for about 12 years, but eventually you find yourself over to the Salesforce ecosystem. And again, for those who don't know what that means, Salesforce is like a train. You get on it. There's a lot of cars. There's a lot of options. It's one that's always going somewhere. You're a passenger on it in a lot of ways. I mean, you have a lot of choices, but you kind of got to go where the engine's going to take you. But what led you from that path over to the Salesforce space? Do you remember, was that what drove it? Was some family stuff going on? Was it you just wanted an opportunity to be at home more? Help me understand that part of your journey.
Okay, yeah. So after traveling contractor, I ended up getting married, starting a family. So I needed to have a more civil way of living. I couldn't be traveling, couldn't be going overseas. So I ended up I took a federal job with the Air Force and on the Civil Service in Warner Robins, Georgia, working on aircraft. The same base that I was active duty at. I came back as a civilian and I worked there for probably about 5 or 6 years. And during this time, while I was civil service, once again, going back to that entrepreneurial bug, I started several businesses. I had a real estate company, but most recently, I started a trucking company that was pretty successful around 2016. So I left my civil service job around 2018-ish and was full-time running my trucking company, Ready and Willing Trucking. Was doing great. And then we had a little thing happen called the pandemic, and it changed everything. At first, it was pretty good in the transportation industry because of the pandemic. But then it got terrible. And around that time, I came to the realization that I'm probably going to have to shut down my trucking company because the numbers just aren't making sense anymore, right? But I had got entitled and I got used to, this was the first time I hadn't been doing manual labor outside. I liked it. I was making a pretty decent amount of money. So I started saying to myself that I want to transition into something to where I can use my mind more than my body. Because like your father was an aircraft mechanic. If you don't eventually level up, it's very hard on the body long term, especially when you work on the flight line outside, which is what I did. So I was trying to figure out a way to make this all make sense for me. And then like literally it had to be an act of God because while I'm shutting down the company, I had to sell insurance to hold me over after I closed down my company. And I saw a video on YouTube and they were talking about Salesforce. So it was about business technology. So instantly I love business. So it caught me right away. And then I understood the technical side of things which I grasped to that from being an aircraft mechanic. So to me, it was like the perfect sign. Hey, you can still be in the business field, but you can use your technical skills as well and get paid well. So from that moment, literally the day that I heard about that, I went and told my wife, I said, hey, I think this is it. And I started doing research. And the more that I looked and watched interviews like the one we're doing right now, this is why I agreed to do it, because I know how important. Because I remember when I was searching, it wasn't that much content, but whatever I can find, I consumed it. And then that's what sparked the bug for Salesforce. And I was literally hooked from that moment.
Yeah, I'm trying to think 2020 when you came in. At this point, Trailhead already exists. There's a million videos on YouTube of Dreamforce and the Dreamin' events, whatnot. So I came into the ecosystem in 2011, and there was a ton on YouTube. Dreamforce was pretty much they're publishing those videos up. And there were, I hate the word influencer, but there were people out there in the ecosystem that had made a name for themselves, for lack of a better term. But man, Trailhead and the community groups, man, it just changed everything. To have a place to go to and ask other people like you doing what you do, hey, has anybody seen this? And you didn't have to go to Salesforce support to get it.
Right.
You know, not to knock that, but there's some kind of trust that comes from a peer group that you don't always get going directly back to the horse's mouth, so to speak. So you have an advantage there that I didn't have. I think I had been in the ecosystem about 6 years when Trailhead came out. So if you wanted to get certified, any of that kind of stuff, you had to go to a classroom, those kinds of things. It was still a very traditional education, but man, the world of opportunities, you know, I think like we joke about this in every episode of the podcast. Everybody's kind of an accidental admin. Like I set out thinking I was going to do something. You look up and like, how did you do that? I don't know. Right place, right time, wrong place, wrong time, however you view it.
Yep.
But here's the one universal truth that I find, and I'd love to hear if you agree with this. Your life experience, regardless of what that experience is useful in the ecosystem.
Yep.
Your background in trucking, insurance, even being on the flight line, those things of problems and people and deductive reasoning, planning, tracking, reporting, all those things have a place. When you come to the ecosystem, you can find a speciality depending on what you like. If you don't like where you start out in it, you can look at Marketing Cloud. Or I mean, what I love about field service is I spent 15 years in steel toes with a toolbox, going to customers' plants, with tools and working on stuff. So while me turning wrenches or wiring up a plant doesn't help me necessarily, the fact that I was out in the field, detached from the mothership, my parent company, yet decisions are being made and I'm being told to go from here to there or whatever. Like, how does that get communicated? This is the beginning of the cell phone era when I was out doing it. So learning how the parentship, the home office can communicate to the field personnel, all those things translate to some kind of methodology of you finding a career here. So definitely not trying to talk everybody into going into that, but if you choose it, don't ever lie to yourself and say the things I've done don't prepare me for success here. I think they very much do. So we'd love to hear a little bit about you. You've got several things as a younger guy to have done time in the Air Force, entrepreneur, insurance, trucking, a lot of different things. How have you seen those things bring some weight and authority to the job you do today?
Yeah, so I definitely agree, especially in regards to consulting. I would say maybe as an admin, like if you don't have to deal with people as much, then maybe your past may not carry over. But as a consultant, 100%, it will help you. For example, when being in the military and that tough job, very demanding, there's not a meeting that I fear. I'm not afraid to go talk to somebody. I've already been through the fire since I was 18 years old. Now you think about having to be in trucking. I have to manage my trucks and my drivers and different shippers, and they come with a lot of different attitudes, a lot of different real world situations that you can't get from a book. And those things prepare you to be able to handle what comes with being a Salesforce consultant. And then lastly, the business acumen, right? Learning about business helped me to be able to put myself in the shoes of our clients. When we're helping them, I can think the way they would think. And then it helps me advocate for the client even more, because it's not just a job. Hey, I want to help these guys' business succeed, because I know what it's like to need that help and you're believing in something and spending your money to make that happen. So it definitely makes you well-rounded when you have other life experiences prior to coming into the ecosystem.
Yeah, we've talked on a couple episodes about our core values, one of which being people first. I think Brandon's commentary about you probably highlights exactly what you just said. And as a consultant, there's one part of the brain that says, I'm showing up to the table, charging an hourly rate to try and do something useful for this client. And there's always that subjective side of your brain going, am I worth that kind of a thing? But I think you bring out something that it's ultimately what led me to Cirrius in terms of the people. I had hired Cirrius to do work for me before I came to work here. But there's an empathetic ear that you come with when you sit down. You're not looking to fill out a form of technical requirements so you can get out your tools and beat out make out the solution, whatever that is. Like, you're truly listening with the interest of, there's a pain point this client's facing. There's a road they're wanting to go down. There's a journey they've been in, and I want to be the best, most strategic partner I can for them. I'm sympathetic to what they're going through, and I think it all together changes how you do it. We've all gone to a mechanic to have them work on our car, or go to Lowe's or Home Depot and pick something up, and you're treated a certain way, and it makes you feel a certain way.
Yep.
But that attitude, what comes out of your heart and how you treat people, man, it's one of the most American things, in my opinion. There's that spirit of locking arms with people, maybe not in your community, in our space. We're virtual and we're on with people all over the country all the time. But there's still that hometown feel to, I'm in the fight with you. I want to help move you down the journey that you're on a certain way. Man, that's great to hear that from you, and it affirms kind of some things I suspected coming in. Do you remember the first time you heard about Cirrius? How did you hear about us? What led you here? If you get in the Salesforce space, like, how long had you been going down that road before you heard of us? And just tell me a little bit about finding your way to Cirrius.
Yeah, so the Hiring Our Heroes program. It's a fellowship. So once I told my wife about what I wanted to do with Salesforce, she gets on TikTok and she tells me about something she heard about Hiring Our Heroes, where they help with job placement and they pay you while you're in this internship. So I set my sights on becoming the next Hiring Our Heroes fellow. So when I went and found out about the program, Cirrius was one of the companies. So after doing my research and the field service component, because I think that maybe there may have been another company or so who did field service, but I want to say Cirrius was at the forefront. And for me, obviously from my background, I knew that field service would be my way in because I can speak the language. So I just went all in on Cirrius once I was in the fellowship, and then they give you a list of companies who are participating in the fellowship. And Cirrius just so happened to be one. So it's kind of like perfect alignment, really. So the program is what brought me to get in the realm of even knowing that Cirrius exists. And then I had to go through, I think the cohort that I was in was the biggest in Hiring Our Heroes history. So I had a very large uphill battle to face just to be able to make it here. But ultimately, it was the Hiring Our Heroes program that put me in position.
Okay. And that was 2023, right?
Yep.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that. In 2022, the first couple of cohorts that I helped participate in, I remember we'd get anywhere from 30 to 50 or 60 resumes to look through to find candidates. In 2023, we were getting 150 to 200 resumes. I mean, it was
easy.
Just, the selection was vast.
Yep.
And they're all freaking great, right? They're all mill spouses. They're all service members. The skills, the background, the personalities, all the above. I mean, it was just really, really difficult. I remember it felt like 100 interviews because you want to give everybody a fair shot, but then you're trying to pick from a bunch of awesome. It was a very difficult time going through that. And I know as a result of 2023, Hiring Our Heroes really tightened up the entry criteria.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not to be exclusive. It's not to push people out. There's just a tremendous passion about that program. And we'll put links to Hiring Our Heroes in the show notes. If you don't know about that, that'll be a way to go look into it and get connected with that program. It's a remarkable one. But I think the main thing
Definitely
that they were really trying to get at, this is about helping people transition. And if 500 people come into it, but there only winds up being placement of 50, right? It's just, then you've got 450 people. Like what just happened to them?
Right.
So I know they would rather see as many as they can all the way through that transition, as opposed to getting hopes, because if you're in that fellowship, that's 12 weeks, that's 3 months that you're committed to something. And at the end of that, if it's a dead end, did you miss another opportunity that might have had employee on the back end of it? And so while it feels like a good thing to help somebody, in previous episodes, we've talked about the timing, how important that is of when you actually get officially into the workforce. So again, what a lot of people will find out about hiring our heroes is you come to a 12-week fellowship, and on the back end of it, a hosting company, which we were one of many, then can choose to keep you on as a full-time employer or not. And I think coming into 2024, I think we were 92% of the fellows that came through our program wind up staying on here full-time at Cirrius.
Yep.
And I think that points to really good interviewing. Like we were good at finding candidates that match what we were looking for. But there's a lot of great companies out there that do that. And even if you're not in the Salesforce space, right, there are dozens and dozens of careers that are represented by hiring our heroes hosting companies. So
the corporate side is way bigger than the Salesforce side. I have friends who are on the corporate side. They have jobs in major corporations. Yeah. So even if you don't go the Salesforce route, I would definitely look into the corporate fellowship.
Sure, for sure. That's fantastic, man. I do remember the cohort you came through. Like there was one or two cohorts that we had, I think 4 or 5 fellows at one time. We had more than we had teams at the time. I remember that because we were outnumbered by them, because typically we'll put one fellow on each team. That way everybody's getting, good attention and feeling the love from being here. And I remember a couple of quarters, it was rather busy. Yeah. It's a good bit of work I don't know how not every company attacks the fellowship the same way that we do here. I'm not saying better or worse, just saying it's different. But we put a tremendous amount of effort. It's the main way we have been hiring. So the way we look at it is this a two-way interview. Like we've got 12 weeks to pour everything we can into you and make sure you're the kind of caliber of person we want to have here. At the same time, you're finding out what real world consulting looks like during your fellowship and deciding, is this really something I want to do full time? So it's really, I think at the end of that, you're going to be eyes wide open. Is this a good choice for me? Is it the right choice for me? So obviously that worked out. It's been fantastic having you here at Cirrius. Hear nothing but great things about you. Let's talk a little bit about your life. I want to make sure that it is not just a journey from high school to the Air Force to Salesforce, but tell me a little bit about your passions as a person. You mentioned entrepreneurship. You mentioned sports in high school. What are some other things about you? What do you spend your time doing when you're not consulting?
Yeah, so I have wife and 3 kids, so all my kids are active, train with them in sports. That's pretty much the biggest time consumption there. So very passionate about fitness and things of that sort. Also, I'm a history buff. So I am the historian for my family. So I do a lot of genealogy, a lot of studying. I go all the way back. Typically anywhere from the 1400s and up is around my bag, but I love to research history. Yeah. So a lot of people wouldn't assume that about me, but I am a very, very big history buff. Outside of that, just the normal stuff when you're married, traveling with the kids and things of that sort. But to sum it up, I think the main 2 things that would encompass who I am outside of work is studying history and fitness and training with my kids.
Before 23andMe, there was Munta. How about that?
Correct.
I didn't know that about you. That's great to hear. Yeah. Once you start having those kids, you talking about becoming a passenger on the train. Yeah. My youngest graduated college in May, but now watching the grandkids come up, and man, it's just one season of life after the other that you go from pouring all into this to that next generation. Man, there's no greater blessing than having that family around you. You're here in Georgia here now. How are you connected to your Louisiana family? Do you get back home a whole lot?
I do actually, and I have my family is huge. So we were talking about family before we started the calls. Let's see, on my mom's side, I have about 12 aunts and uncles. So my family is all over now. Okay. So it's not hard to go catch up with family.
Well, you mentioned you got a bunch of them in the military, and inevitably that picks you up and plants you wherever it lands you, right?
Correct.
So, good. I don't know how people do family. That's one thing when I first got here as an engagement manager, I had a couple of military spouses on my team, and understanding like like Christmas rolls around. Are you going to go see your family for Christmas? I can't. The service members on duty and like whatever. And like, I remember Hannah's husband getting out, and they were actually able to go home and spend a week at Christmas with their family. It was the first time in her married life they'd been able to do that. And man, just what comes with that, there's a lot to it. And I just can't fathom raising kids without your parents or aunts or uncles or somebody around to have babysitters, people you know and trust, for good influence. You want them pouring into your kids, what they see, what that good work ethic looks like and whatnot. So glad to hear you got that. If you think about your time here at Cirrius, obviously, when you were interviewing, there's a reason you chose Cirrius. You mentioned the field service offering that we have and specialize in an area you have passion, so that aligned. But at the end of that fellowship, you were offered a chance to stay on. Do you recall specifically what your fellowship confirmed this is a place to be. And obviously you stayed here. You've moved around the company a little bit in your time here. Give me some highlights. Give me the highlight reel of Monte's time here. What draws you here? What keeps you here?
Yeah, so I had an instant. I go off gut feeling a lot. You know, my whole story, I tend to trust my instincts. And from that interview, the very first interview before I even became a fellow here, I just knew it was something about the people. Like, I knew that it was genuine. I felt like I would get the opportunity to really grow here. And honestly, funny story, I honestly bluffed. So during the fellowship, I just knew that. So before I even started, I already had 3 certs that I got while being a fellow. Wow. So that would put me in the top 1% of all of my peers. So I felt like based on that, I should be able to get a pretty good amount of interviews. Crazy enough, the only interview that I got was with Cirrius. And when I interviewed, they were so impressed. They felt like I had to have more interviews. So I played along. I was playing poker, right? I played along because, you know, I'm a businessman, leverage, right? Yeah. So I was just hoping. I said, man, I hope this doesn't backfire, and I hope they offer me. So obviously they offered me. And I literally told Tim, I said, hey, I'm going to be the rock star that I told you I was going to be. I guarantee it. And so for that moment, I wanted to prove myself right and prove him right as well. So started off as an associate, fellow to an associate on a field service pod. And man, drinking from a water hose is what they always say in the ecosystem, right? And you have no choice as a consultant. So I literally got put in the fire right away. Within the first, couple months, I was already doing my first go live. I had to go on site to a client. Like, all of this was before me even hitting a year. But it was the greatest thing ever, because after that, it took my confidence through the roof. Yeah. After that happened, I kept skilling up. I always have a thirst for knowledge. So many people here, very smart people. I wanted to pick their brain and learn and, know what they know. And it just kept me going down the path. And Cirrius enabled me to do that at every step of the way. And somewhere along that route, I started thinking about, obviously, progression. How can I grow? How can I get to the next level? And this is when the opportunity to join the managed services department, and kind of the way I described it to Brandon is I liked managed services because it's kind of like running your own business. So obviously, once again, that appealed to my background. So I've been able to grow. As you know now, I'm 8 certs in, several projects under my belt, and been promoted to senior consultant. So, and I all within 2 years, basically. So it's been great. It's been a fun journey. There's pretty much a lot more to go within this journey, but man, it's been flying by, because I almost had 3 years in a few months, and man, it feels like I just started. That's the part that's crazy.
Yeah, that's one thing. You get on this train, like, you never really arrive, because the train you're on is still going places. So it doesn't, there's no way to learn it as fast as it's coming at you. If you think about a veteran out there and they're about to put their papers in, and you can slant this towards going down the Salesforce road or not, I think there's a lot to be said. I don't think there's a perfect job. I don't think there's a perfect company or a perfect situation. But I think there are good people at okay companies that make for a great situation. Or there might be a great job at an okay company that's a horrible situation because it's just not the right thing for you. As you think about going from that, you're 21 years old, you're coming out of the military, and like, you had confidence, you had experience, you had success in a lot of different things. Looking back at that, talking to a younger Monte, if you were trying to give let's say you got a nephew that's on your heels, right? They're going to go do the military, and they're coming out, and they go, Uncle Monte, how did you choose? What would be your one best piece of advice? You got a 30-second phone call from Hong Kong to give them some message before they start looking. How do you tell them? What's the advice you give them to set out on that journey, to find a place? Because again, I think if you think you're going to find a perfect job, you're inevitably going to be disappointed. There's no such thing. Right. But there's the right place with the right people. I think is the sweet sauce. But tell me your take on it. How do you sum up that up?
I would say there's especially in the millennial generation, there was a saying that basically is, you should follow your passion. And I don't agree with that. I feel like you should follow the skills that you possess in order to sustain yourself and your family, to invest in whatever your passions are. Because your passion may be butterflies, but hey, butterfly research probably won't pay the bills, right? So you need
Yeah.
to do something that makes sense financially, because this world is constantly evolving and it's never going back to what it used to be. $500 rent, like those days are over.
Yeah.
So find something that can sustain you and that matches your skill set in life. And as long as you do that, typically you will steer yourself in the right direction. I wasn't passionate about airplanes, but I knew how to work with my hands, and I knew that it could lead me to somewhere else. So it was never about the fun. It was about the funds. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I remember getting out of college and getting married. We didn't have kids right away. But when they say necessity is the mother of all invention, like when you start getting some bills, it'll motivate you to do some stuff.
Oh yeah. Real quick.
But just I don't recall ever in my career like saying that's the door I want, let's open and go through it. Like you are where you are, you find a way to be the best person you can be in that situation. And I find blessings just kind of happen in that. I've been greatly blessed by having people around me that would see things in me and mentor me and coach me. And I mean, not even just like going and sitting down once a month kind of a things, but just
right.
They were conversations I had with some people. Yeah. So I don't ever underestimate or undervalue the people that you're around. Tim's one I talk about a lot. I'm looking forward to having him on here. He's a guy you can sit down, and he's probably the busiest person in our company. But when you sit with him, he's sipping a cup of coffee and he's got all the time in the world. And man, there's just wisdom that can come from people like that. They're a little further down the road from you. And like you're doing the next thing, like you're pouring into that next generation of kids that you got. Teaching them sports, being active, being self-sufficient, having strength, and learn to sacrifice. All those things come to making you well-rounded. But man, I love that. I absolutely love that. Go find the things you can do. Whether they say work to live, don't live to work.
Correct.
Companies will just continue to take.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's one thing here that we there's a lot that goes into the people here. That people first is not just about our clients. It's also about our colleagues and our teams and the health of our people. So there's a lot that comes from that. Cool. Man, that was kind of the list of questions I had. I appreciate you sharing some time with us, some of your story. I continue to be impressed. It just proves, I know, I said it doesn't prove we have the greatest people, man, but I think we've been very fortunate in the people that we got through hiring our heroes and other means. But looking back, I remember the first couple of years of being here, just seeing so many new faces come through hiring our heroes. And then see where those people are today, how much you've grown. I mean, there's a lot of timidity, coming into this ecosystem. Like you show up as an associate fresh off that fellowship, and it's really easy to get scared by the bigness of certain employee contracts or going on site for the first time. Like that can be nerve wracking.
Oh yeah.
But to look back on some people that can celebrate 2 or 3 years and how many projects under your belt. And I think the stat that I saw Brandon posted or told me about, one of the things you did with one client, you closed over 650 tickets for them in a year.
Yep.
And that's truly pouring your passion, wanting to show up and be a servant leader, so to speak, that I'm here to help you. That's one way managed services really serves our clients well. So I think you exemplify that model, that the vision that Brandon had in setting MS up, and you just carry that baton really, really well. Man, is there anything you'd like to throw out there just to kind of wrap this up on your advice to either mill spouses or veterans, service members, how you can encourage them in the ocean? To your point, maybe 15 years ago, you didn't have the option to Google and that felt bad. Now you got the option to Google and there's 3,000 choices. In some ways, that's worse. So how do you wrap this up?
I would say be diligent, trust your gut, and also bet on yourself. There's never going to be something that's all the way outlined perfectly where there's no roadblocks or hiccups. That's not realistic. But if you know that you've prepared, you've done your due diligence, and you have what it takes, then you got to go all in. It was a risk taking this path, but it panned out for me. And I felt like I deserved it because I was truly prepared and I knew I had what it takes. So if you're on the fence and trying to figure it out, sometimes you can't always find wise counsel who can give you every answer because they don't know what they don't know. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try if you know that you have all your bases covered. So that's what I want to leave everybody with. If you know it's time for you to transition, make a plan. Once you know that plan makes sense and it's sound, then you execute and believe in yourself all the way through.
Don't look back.
Don't look back.
Good deal. Well, listen, man, on behalf of my family, Thank you for your service. Thank you for not just you, but your mom and your aunts and uncles, all that have done that. I continue just to be humbled. I get emotional talking about it. I think as I was talking to Carlos, I had done a lot of research on the stats for veterans. And it really a big surprise to me was they had a hard line differentiating veterans that signed up after 9/11 versus those that signed up before. And there's a lot of reasons you might can get into that, but I think the main thing is if you signed up after 9/11, you're going to see combat, right? I mean, that's just almost guaranteed. We've been in that mess for 25 years now. So, but watching what to know we have the largest volunteer military in the world, that there are still people who get up and say, I'll go. I'll carry that rifle. I'll stand up for what's right. The people that still make that decision, leave their families behind and go do what's got to be done, man. God bless you. Thank you for what you've done and that you continue to carry that, you and your family. I really appreciate it. But thanks again for the time today, Monte. For following up this episode, we'll put links out to Hiring Our Heroes and to Monte's LinkedIn profile. I know he would. I've never come across a service member yet who wasn't willing to connect with other service members and share their story. So, but again, thank you for your time today, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Greg. Have a good one, man.
You too. And that concludes today's episode of Cirrius Talk, the Military Minute. On behalf of Cirrius Solutions, we would like to extend our sincere appreciation to the entire veteran and military spouse community for your unwavering commitment and sacrifice. Remember, your military experience has equipped you with exceptional skills that the Salesforce ecosystem needs. Join us next time as we continue to explore pathways to success in the Salesforce space. If you know a veteran on the verge of separating from the military, or a military spouse considering Salesforce as a career, please share this episode with them. If you enjoyed the material, please give us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe on YouTube so that you can be alerted to new content. We greatly appreciate all of your support. Please see the show notes for links to learn more about Cirrius Solutions and other programs discussed in this episode. I want to extend a special thanks to Jason Fowler for allowing use of his song, Mystery Road. Until next time, this is Greg Banks signing off.